Hey, good to be back, huh? Let's make some bets. This is the portfolio. Well, it's really just the EV betting strategy show. That's what it is. We do our best to find good bets around here, EV bets. And as you know, all the results right here on the screen, as always. We know what we're betting, we know what's profitable, and that's what we hammer. Whether we're doing betting with singles or straights, whether we're looking to build some parlays out, which you better believe we're going to do today. Got some exciting stuff in the works for that parlay builder as well. But finally, we're back. Thank God. You got the end of the Four Nations face-off today between USA and Canada. Saturday's game was intense. But, the thing that sucks is like it lost its luster now. You make us wait several days just to get the final game. They should have I get you can't play hockey every single day straight, but you got to do something else. Hockey will be back soon, but we're back. Dave Lochran, Greg Ehrenberg. What's up, brother?
Yeah, excited to be back with basketball and, the show that you and we've only done a few of them. We're trying to build it up, but it's hard to do when there's no NHL and there's no NBA going on. Now they're back. We could get back to it. We've got some interesting news that's broken just recently. Wemby out for the season. You and I were on a meeting before this, so I was looking. I wanted to bet some of the defensive player of the year markets, but just didn't get to it because of the meeting we were on. There must have been some insane value there because Wemby was, depending where he looked, like minus 2,500 and minus 3,000 to win defensive player of the year. He's out for the season, so he's going to be ineligible. We just found out that Norman Powell was downgraded to questionable for today. So it's going to introduce some interesting betting angles. And then also if the defensive player of the year market goes back up in the next hour while you and I are on here, then we could look at what some of those odds are.
Deep vein thrombosis. Done for the year. Yeah, that came out of nowhere, man. That's tough. That's going to send ripple effects through everything. So we'll see what happens there. Like you said, I don't think it'll come back up while we're on the show, though. Do you?
I wouldn't be surprised if it does.
I noticed something interesting happening with Onyx odds today. I mentioned it to you earlier in the day. We know that it was kind of just like a DraftKings skin for these odds. What I've noticed happening throughout the morning and the day, I've still got some great bets in over there so far. They are actually moving faster than DraftKings right now in many instances. And I'm going to see if we can find this, real time. Generally, you would see it where, at least last week when we brought Onyx on and started supporting this, social book, which of course you can still play with Onyx cash and then withdraw for cash. So, same thing. What do they say? 6 of one, half dozen of the other, Greg. It's all the same here. It's just about the sweepstakes style. But we'll see. Like if you pull up DraftKings right now, I bet you'll see. By the way, happy you guys could join us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. And if you're new to this show, straight EV betting style, top-down betting, but we're trying to pull as much value as we can, build some parlays, hit on some promos. If you guys see any promos across the books, make sure to throw them in the chat, and we'll work with them as well, and do a bunch of other stuff while we're at it. The key is to make some money. But if you look, there are going to be some DraftKings props where the odds are worse for Onyx. Now, it shouldn't be that way if you are, in fact, just copying DraftKings odds and then moving when DraftKings moves. It should be the other way around. There shouldn't be instances where, or at least not a lot, where DraftKings is moving in one direction and you are moving heavily in the other.
One thing I'm curious to ask you about Onyx, I haven't signed up there quite yet, going to in the near future. Have you found it easier to place more bets on Onyx and to both in terms of volume of bets as well as dollar amount of those bets compared to DraftKings? Or has it been kind of the same to this point?
No, I mean, from a dollar amount, who knows how long it lasts, but yeah. Now, I'm trying to be a little bit careful about it, so I'm not using not like $200 bets, which I think would be silly in this instance, because there's going to be more than enough volume on Onyx where if you're doing, like, let's say an average of say $60, $75 bets, you're going to get down a lot every day. No problem. And I mean, think of it like this. You're someone, and you and I think we have the same limits on DraftKings. If you were able to bet $75 on every bet on DraftKings, right, on like a 10-game slate, you're getting a lot down every day.
True.
as far as like actual money, because the volume of bets is a lot. So yeah, that's how it is. The only difference right now is we don't have the mass entry tool.
Yeah, no mass entry tool yet for Onyx, and there is no app for Onyx. But I remember you saying the other day that you found a way you could use the desktop version as kind of like a pseudo version of an app. So just to remind people if they're new to Onyx, I thought that was really interesting when you said that the other day. People either might not remember or just didn't hear it last week.
Yeah, and you don't even need to. If you just click bet, it pulls it up in your bet slip just in the browser. So like you could click bet on Onyx right now and it'll pull it straight up in the browser. Yeah, it's mobile. Sorry, I'm talking about if someone's on mobile.
Oh, gotcha.
It's mobile only, but still, same thing applies. Anyway, what do you say we find some bets?
Let's do it. By the way, FanDuel did just put up the Defensive Player of the Year market. They only have 2 players who are they're viewing as live to win right now. These are also pretty shitty odds. They have Jaren Jackson Jr. at minus 125 to win. And then they also have Evan Mobley at minus money to win at minus 110. And there's just a bunch of long shot players.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can really touch that.
Not right now. Also, my brother, who's very into buying and trading cards, has a bunch of Wemby stuff, and he's freaking out right now. My brother's also very dramatic, but he just texted me. He goes, 30% of people that get deep vein thrombosis die within 8 years. So like he thinks Wemby's about to die. So I'm like, all right, it's probably because old people get it, and it's like my grandma has it, but she's also in her 90s, so she's very likely to die within the next 8 years. But I'm getting very dramatic messages from my brother right now while we're doing this.
The average aim, most common in adults over 60. Yeah. Yeah. What is it?
It's what Wemby has.
It's a medical condition where that's not good. Blood clot forms in deep veins or in a deep vein within the body, most commonly in the legs, which can be partially or completely blocking blood flow and cause swelling, pain, and potentially serious complications if the clot travels to the lungs. Pulmonary embolism. Yeah, that's scary. Yeah. That's like what you hear as a warning when you're taking a medication on TV.
It's one of the 900 warnings that every medication seems to have.
Yeah, that's a little scary. But anyway, here we are. Yeah, Brett, I thought the same thing, Brett. When I thought the same thing. He said Brett's going to feel awful when Wemby dies. Yeah. Let's hope they can figure this one out.
Yeah. Because it will also, I'm not saying anything other than I think my brother claiming he is going to die is a little bit over dramatic.
Sure. I remember this happening to other.
Brandon Ingram had it. That was why he missed, if I'm not mistaken, a large portion of a couple of seasons ago. Also, it was in his shoulder. We saw Sar Thompson miss part of his rookie year last year because of a blood clotting issue. So it is not common for people of this age to get it, but we have seen it 3 consecutive years now, some sort of issue related to this from an NBA player.
Man, good recall there. But yes, Brandon Ingram did have it, and he's back. Yeah, he's okay. All right, you ready to make some bets?
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, first thing too, we can you can pull everything up if you'd like, but we'll scout out some promos here, and on top of that, see what we can do about building some parlays. I tweeted yesterday. I actually had our devs. You guys will appreciate this. I had our devs go in and see if they could pull for me the most profitable and least profitable players this season from all of our tracked bets. Now it works in snapshots, right? Like where we're pulling bets, so you're not capturing 100% of everything. And it was like between 100 and 200 bets for the most recommended players that we tracked, right? With all of the back tested data. So statistically, I wouldn't say it's significant, but it was interesting for me to see one guy at the top of the list for least profitable. Now, Scoot Henderson was like, even though it's only 107 bets, it was minus 70%, 75% ROI, Greg, which is insane. Yeah. But Derek White is a guy that I've said for the past 2 years, for some reason, my ROI with Derek White is so bad. To the point where I know this is dumb, but like I stopped betting Derek White props because I'm not sure I've ever won one of them. But he was just up there on FanDuel. It was pretty cool to see that though. Some of these guys like Miles Turner, 31% ROI this season with like 150 bets tracked in our tools.
Yeah, and I think that there is actually a pretty good reason for why somebody like Derek White would have a negative ROI in our tools. And the biggest reason to me is because the Boston Celtics constantly rule people out all the time. Like, this is a team that at worst, the Boston Celtics are the second worst team in the NBA. Them and OKC, they're on a tier of their own. And Boston is very much playing for the postseason. So off the top of my head, I want to say that 75% of games this year for the Celtics, one of their core players is sat. And what always ends up happening in those scenarios where a player gets ruled out is you will see some books that are early movers, most notably FanDuel and DraftKings, two news like that. Drew Holiday getting ruled out, Jaylen Brown getting ruled out. And then you could have lines that for a brief period of time look really plus EV from Derek White, but actually kind of aren't, because other books end up, like Pinnacle and other sharp sources, end up catching up, where even if those books might be sharper, they're not faster to move to some of those news. And that's where I think some of the Boston Celtics players, I didn't look at all of the players in your thread, but I wouldn't be surprised if like Jason Tatum was on that also as being a negative ROI player.
You know, the crazy thing about that is that Jason Tatum is one of my most profitable players personally.
Well, screw me then.
But everything you're saying makes sense for sure. It could just be that Jason Tatum, actually, it could just be that Jason Tatum on those rest type of days is ruled out a whole lot more than a Derek White would be. So you're just voiding a lot of those Tatum bets, whereas Derek White's not getting as much of that rest as other guys were. I don't know, but yeah, it's funny how that works. You do wonder though, like, are certain sports books softer on certain players within markets? Like, are there just certain spots that, like Cade Cunningham for me, been a losing player for me going back to last season and this season, right? And in our tools, he was like minus 35% ROI. It's a small sample. It's only like 100 some bets tracked. So statistically, it's insignificant. But I do wonder, are there certain spots where, like, because I've noticed, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I've personally noticed that certain players show up as plus EV bets on specific books more than they would on other books.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I'm also just pulling up my results I'm looking at all of last year, because this year we've only got, a month and a half, and we also missed some time from that month and a half. So I don't have any players just in 2025 that I have even like 30 bets on or anything like that. So I'm just pulling up my 2024 and looking at some of the players I was most positive, negative on. Jokic, I was really positive on. Wemby, De'Aaron Fox. I got killed. I got killed on in 2024 was Franz Wagner. I got destroyed by Franz Wagner, where there was a stretch where, I don't know if you remember this, but when Boncaro was first ruled out, Franz Wagner played out of his mind, and constantly books were shorting. I mean, I was too. Like, I wasn't playing him that much in DFS, and his price kept going up. He kept getting more popular. It was like, this guy was $7,900 a week ago. He's $9,500 now, and he's more popular than he was before. And probably was just, in general, I think a lot of people were too low on Franz Wagner. And I think it probably relates to what you were saying before too, where I think certain books could either be too high or too low on certain players. And then it just gets repeated day over day. And then if you're on the right side of it, you just continue to profit on that player. But if you're on the wrong side, you continually lose on that player too.
100%. All right, let's get into it. What do you say? Just wanted, a little housekeeping now that we're back. I just got 2 more bets down on Onyx. No problem there. Yeah, so I'm getting a lot down on Onyx for sure. And Ryan asked if we can do a pick 6 card. Sure, we can take a look at that as well. But just pull that Kawhi one up. Now, are you looking right now to fade these Clippers bets until they kind of stabilize a bit with this Powell news?
Probably, but first I want to look to see if Pinnacle's adjusted to the news, because if Pinnacle has adjusted, then there's a pretty good chance that just DraftKings here, BetMGM, they might have been overreacting to Norman Powell being downgraded to questionable. But let's see. If we look at Pinnacle, has Pinnacle adjusted? Yeah, Pinnacle has not moved anything for the Norm Powell news yet. So with that in mind, and knowing that this is a sharp book and other sharp books kind of end up following suit, I don't, even though this is currently rated out as a really strong bet, I want to wait until Pinnacle, because this is just basically a stale line that's up by Pinnacle. So I want to avoid these Clippers lines for now because it's kind of based on a faulty assumption.
Yep. The only thing I will say is if you look at like FanDuel, which I would assume has adjusted, like pull up DraftKings and FanDuel too.
Yeah. So
just click refresh up top.
yeah. There we go. All right. So if we look at DraftKings and FanDuel, yeah. So you can see DraftKings made a pretty big adjustment here. FanDuel made a pretty big adjustment. And then if you compare that to Pinnacle,
no adjustment at all. Yep.
Yeah, the line has not moved at all yet.
So that makes sense then. All right. Let's see what non-Clipper stuff here. And if you guys aren't on Onyx yet, it's a great way to get money down right now for sure. You a lot of these social sports books, the first deposit is small as $500 first deposit or largest deposit that you can get. So that's pretty nice. And yeah, no promo code or anything that we're dishing out at you. Just one of these spots where, like, if you're using a market-based, this top-down approach, that's probably a good spot to do it. There's your boy, Franz Wagner, staying away from the negative 9.1 assists for sure. But there's a couple that stood out to me when I was looking at him earlier. The Onyeka Okongwu. If you click on that, do we have? Let's see here.
Yeah, this is plus EV at a few books.
Yeah.
BetMGM, DraftKings, and then Onyx, where, like we've said, Onyx and DraftKings typically end up mirroring odds more often than not. I also bet under 10.5 rebounds for Onyeka Okongwu early in the day. So this is to me definitely a strong look, is looking at the Okongwu under rebounds props.
Would you bet the under 9.5 as well?
I've already bet the 10.5, but since the 9.5 is also plus EV, the answer is yes. The one caveat to this being, I don't know if you've noticed this, but if you bet, say, under 10.5 at DraftKings and the line moves to 9.5 and it's still plus EV, if you try to bet the 9.5, they won't let you double bet it. They'll say you already bet this market.
I know, which is wild. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much anything within that market, you're capped. Keldon Johnson too, San Antonio, under on points. If you check that one out too, Keldon Johnson, because right now that's been a really nice one for us on FanDuel this year for sure. Penny's got it at minus 120. Can you go to the graph there and just see some movement here from like Penny, pull up Penny, FanDuel, and then just for us to get an idea.
Yeah, and then for reference, even though we just found out that Wemby's going to be out for the season, he was ruled out yesterday.
Yeah.
So this isn't, it's new that he's out for the season, but it doesn't impact today's game. We already knew he wasn't going to be playing.
Yeah, 100%. Still nice to look at this type of stuff, though, just to see where the market's moving. That's a good spot, though, for sure. Plus, 8 OS rating. Do we have enough bets right now to make a FanDuel parlay?
We might be able to. I'm going to place this Keldon Johnson bet right now, but let's see if we could also build a parlay on FanDuel with anything else related to this.
Oh, it's in Wemby's shoulder.
Yeah. Which is also the exact same as Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram also had it in his shoulder.
Did he?
Yeah.
We actually have a lot up on FanDuel right now. And I told you, by the way, Greg, that I tweaked the portfolios and found that, there's about 600 bets for threes if you were to take the minimum odds of minus 115. I'm willing to bet threes in that situation, especially if they're, rated really well. There's Brook Lopez one. If you look at that, Brook Lopez under 1.5 threes. I got a bunch of over 3 props on FanDuel today as well. But Brook Lopez under 1.5 threes plus 114 on FanDuel. If you look at this, every other book is minus money. And I'm looking on my phone because we can't pull it up here. But every other book outside of like Unibet, Bet Rivers, they're even money. But like Penny minus 108, Hard Rock minus 110, DraftKings minus 115. So I think this is just one of those spots where you're getting it at plus 114. I'm happy to bet that. Now, You don't have to because you'd be putting a plus money spot into the parlay, but I don't hate that at all. Plus, we've got the true odds on something like this at plus 106 anyway. So I would imagine we want to put, the Keldon Johnson goes in first. Yeah. We're fading that Franz Wagner spot for sure.
Fading the Franz Wagner spot. We're fading the Clippers spots as of right now, just waiting for some of the sharp books to move their lines to catch up to the rec books to see what they have as the actual fair line for this kind of scenario. Here's the big question though, Laffy. We've got a 2-leg parlay right here. Got an 8% EV.
Derek White.
The next, it's your arch nemesis as the next guy on the board.
Well, all right. Here's the good news, right? Nobody's playing their second of a back-to-back for Boston today.
Yep. Everybody's in.
Yeah, everybody's in. Everybody's rested. Fuck it. Throw them in there.
Here we go. Derek White.
Joseph asked the same thing. Are we adding the White play to the parlay?
I was very excited. I was very excited when I looked to my left over here at the screen and saw that was the next one on the board.
Look at the odds too there. There's only a couple books you can make this parlay on right now, but Fliff has that at what, plus 558?
Yeah, we've got this line at, that's actually the only one that has it up right now. That's the only other one. So you could place it at FanDuel for plus 747 or Fliff for plus 556.
Yeah, I mean, look, even if you guys aren't using the portfolio EV tools, just hands down, the shop everything. What a massive difference you're getting there from one to the other. But yeah, plus 747. That's not a great number given these recent air disasters, Greg.
Yeah.
But,
well, hopefully it doesn't crash and burn. But we do have a 13% chance of it winning, which a little bit safer of a chance than landing safely on a Delta flight.
Yeah. It's just the Norm Macdonald 9/11 bit is always the one. It's like 9/11. What a terrible name for an airline.
It reminds me of that tragedy.
Yeah. I walked through blood and bone to find my brother. He was in northern Canada. What a legend. But so plus 747 there. That's a good bet. Also 11% 11% EV. $100 bet wins 847. Now, I wouldn't suggest you just go start throwing $100 parlay bets on this, but we've got Keldon Johnson, for those of you listening and not watching, under 10.5 points. Brooke Lopez, under 1.5 threes. Derek White, under 14.5 points. Also, just throwing this out there, we do have, I noticed an over spot on Karis LeVert, over 1.5 threes. I did bet this earlier. I will tell you that the line hasn't moved. Now, it might. Like I bet over on Siakam threes, 1.5 threes at plus 170, Greg, this morning. That is now at plus 135. So in a situation like this, you haven't seen that Karis LeVert line move. I don't know. I don't know if you take that into consideration. If you go like, it hasn't moved in 3 hours, maybe I'll back off.
Yeah, so a part of this too, because I also bet the Siakam one earlier. One of the other things I'm curious to, I'm going to pull up FanDuel right now. They do really odd things with their alt lines. Where the Siakam one, not only was it a good value, it was the alt line though that was over 1.5 threes for plus 170. They had the normal lineup at over or under 1.5 threes, and it was plus 130 at the point in time.
Well, they met. It's a FanDuel thing that's like. Caesars does it often too, where I tell people all the time, if you're going to bet a number that can be made into an alt line. So what I mean is like, you couldn't do it if the rushing prop was, 62.5 rushing yards in football or something. Right. But as you're mentioning here, 1.5 threes or any type of like rebound or assist, 5.5 rebounds. I tell people all the time, Greg, one of the most, I think, valuable aspects of portfolio EV to begin with is we pull the best line regardless. The amount of times that we've identified FanDuel or Caesars having alt lines that are way off from the standard line that they haven't patched yet is all the time. Like you're saying the alt line is 2+ threes and the standard line is over 1.5, which obviously is the same exact thing. You can't push it. So You're telling me it was that far off to the point where one was plus 170, the other was plus 130?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I put that in my thread all the time because I started to notice, which is totally reasonable. But when I do my thread and I list the bets for the day for the bankroll builder thread that I do on Twitter, that if you guys just want more free bets, I'm sure most of you watching are probably aware of it, but follow me on Twitter, G. Ehrenberg DFS, and I post a lot of the bets from the tools and just have been building a bankroll over the course of the season, starting at $100, and now that's over $500. Is a lot of times I'll place a bet and I'll post it as being like the Siakam over 1.5 threes plus 170. People will probably be like, that's not the line. It's plus 130. It's because it's the alt lines, and they often have. BetMGM has been doing this a bunch too, where they have wildly different lines in the normal market versus the alt line. I don't know why that ends up being the case. As far as Karis LeVert goes, the reason that this line right here hasn't moved is they actually pulled it off the board, but it's still in their API. So I don't think it necessarily means you placed a bad bet because it didn't move. And not saying that's what you're saying is the case, but the main reason it hasn't moved is because they don't have it as a bettable line right now, but they still have it available in their API.
Interesting. Because it was still, when I went into the actual book itself, it was still available.
Yeah,
Not
I just
right
pulled
now,
it up
but
right now because I wanted to see what the alt lines were relative to the normal ones, and they just don't have Karis LeVert listed right now.
Okay. Fair enough. But yeah, the Keldon Johnson spot, the Brook Lopez spot, we'll throw Derek White in there. There was a question too. Can we build a DraftKings parlay? Yeah, let's go. Let's see what we can build with all of these. We built one the other day that was a 3-leg or 4-leg parlay on here. Someone had tweeted at us too that that lost because a game went to overtime. And
not only did it lose in overtime, we had under 19.5 points for Lauri Markkanen. He was at 18 points. The game was a blowout. For overtime standards, it was a blowout. And he hit a shot with something like 18 seconds left to put him to 20 points. But it was also a game where Utah was being outscored like 12-0 or something in overtime. Like the game was over.
Sucks. Because sometimes all you need is one of these. Plus, we're building out plus EV spots. Not to mention, guys, if you're new to this and you're not, I know a lot of you watching are users, and we're just working through this together over at Portfolio EV. But with the return of basketball and hockey, 75% off the entirety of the month. Best deal you're going to get. No, hands down. You know, like we always have the free trial active for a week, but which you can take advantage of. But 75% off is $75 off the whole month. So even if you're starting with a small bankroll like Greg did, you know, basically like you know, a proof of concept essentially, and you've proved it well. Even if you're starting off with $100, use the bankroll manager, set your recommended bet size. You will, without question, if you're paying $25 for the entirety of the month, just sign up on as many books as possible. Turn on notifications from your phone so you get them straight from the app. Always know when to bet. Get as many bets down as possible. $25 for the entirety of the month. It's a really powerful tool, a really powerful betting tool. And all of our results are 100% front and center, public, full transparency. You go into the results tool, you can see what all of the results are for every market that we have, for every bet, and many of these with, you know, several thousand tracked bets. So you never have to wonder like, oh, is this bullshit? Because you see all those cappers out there these days where it's like they say they're profitable, they won't show results. You can see which of our, and scroll down, Greg, there's some red there too. We show the good and the bad. You see like certain spots that you just won't want to bet for certain markets. And that's what it comes down to. So 75% off, link in the description, link is in the chat as well. If you ever have questions, hit us up. DMs are open. Same with the Discord, that you'll get access to that. All right, let's build a DraftKings one out here.
Of course, I clicked on the wrong thing here, but we'll go to the parlay builder. We'll go to DraftKings. And we were able to get a pretty good FanDuel parlay built, but I bet we could get something even better for DraftKings.
Yeah, although I will say, well, let's see. That Keldon Johnson, yep, there you go. Well, no, it's Kawhi. I think we probably still throw the Okongwu one in there, though.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, here's the question I have for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
If assist is negative on FanDuel, right, like heavily negative, but we know that it's not negative from an HROI perspective on DraftKings, and it's the same prop like this Franz Wagner, What do you do with it?
Is it the same on FanDuel?
I thought it was.
Let me see. All right. Franz Wagner assists on FanDuel. Is it the exact same number?
FanDuel's better.
It's not, because FanDuel is a better number. FanDuel is minus 104.
So you see what I'm saying here? Like, why would you plug that in on DraftKings if you wouldn't bet it on FanDuel at a better number just because it's been positive on DraftKings? Like, in this case, if you're going to bet it, you just bet it on FanDuel.
Yeah. Yeah. And for this purpose anyway, it's also not a consideration because we've already got the Okongwu one locked in.
Sure.
And that's a better number, and we can't play them both together in a parlay unless we're going to make it a same game parlay. So that does make the decision easier for us. But it's an interesting point you bring up because it goes the other way too, right? If you normally wouldn't bet assists on FanDuel, but it's really positive on DraftKings and FanDuel is a better number, should be considering it on FanDuel. And I kind of think it as a case-by-case basis. It depends also how much volume you want to get, if you want to be a little bit more risk-averse. I would probably do a little bit more digging into why the number shows up as plus EV on FanDuel and how some of the other markets look on Franz Wagner's assist props at other books. But yeah, I agree. For now, I'd want to stay away from Franz Wagner assists.
Yep. Well, Vooch threes looks fantastic.
Agreed.
So if you're throwing a Okongwu under 9.5 boards at even money, Vooch at minus 110 under 1.5 threes, then you start to look at some of these other spots. You can't throw Trae Young. You can't throw Batadze in there. There's a couple guys we can't play unless you wanted the same game parlay, which for what it's worth, in this case, I bet we could build out a decent same game parlay as well. And that DraftKings has a boost offer for us. So we'll do that as well. But where do you want to go? Do you have any spots? Like, you don't want to go Zubats right now.
Right. Don't want to go Zubats. Don't want to go Kawhi. So I'd scroll down a little bit more. And now also just from, being on DraftKings the entire year and placing bets, I have a pretty good idea of what some of the best ROI markets are. And assist is one that plays well on DraftKings. So we've got two here. We've got Tyrese Maxey under 5.5 assists at plus 105. We've got Jokic under 10.5 assists at minus 105. I brought this up before. I'm a little bit more inclined to take the Jokic one. The data is very similar for the two of them. 2.5 per 6 expected ROI, 2.6%. But just because of the slightly better likelihood of the bet winning, I prefer to go the minus 105 odds than the plus 105.
So let's plug this one in. I'm betting it right now. And then I want to take a look at something. What the fair odds would be on a same game parlay.
Okay.
To what DraftKings or what it is and what DraftKings is giving us. So there's a couple spots we could do here. You could go with the Okongwu, right? And then you could go, I guess, Trae Young PRA and Batadze rebounds. And I'm doing that right now.
Okay.
So Trae Young PRA, Goga Batadze rebounds, and Okongwu rebounds. And if you toggle that same game parlay on.
Yep, I did. I've got it plugged in here. So
Yep.
we've got odds on these. Okongwu under 9.5 rebounds, plus 100. Trae Young under 40.5 PRA, that's minus 120. And then we've got Goga Batadze under 7.5 rebounds, minus 105. So we've got these three in here, and we have it with an expected win of 15%. And what are the odds that DraftKings is actually, because it's always weird, the odds that they give for same game parlays.
Yes, it is. Plus 550. Plus 550. Now, can we make this a 4-leg? Because then we can use this boost.
We might be able to. By the way, for reference, you said the odds that we're getting, because we could actually just do the math here and figure out what we should be getting to get the actual, make sure it's actually plus EV. You said it's plus 550 on FanDuel?
Yep.
Okay, so plus 550 has implied odds of 15.38%. This currently is 15%, so it would be very neutral, but we're trying to get it with a boost. So as of
Exactly.
right now, I wouldn't bet this as a same game parlay unless we could figure out some of the odds here with the boost. So we do have to add one more.
That's what we're going to do. So just throw Franz Wagner in there for a second. At the end of the day, that has an assist been very profitable on DraftKings?
Yes.
All right. So we got Wagner. That gets us to plus 1,200. All right. Now, if we wanted to use this boost, right?
Yeah. And we have expected win of 8%. So the odds that we need to get for this to be profitable, we need the odds, Lofty, to be better than plus 1150.
Plus 1440.
Okay, that works.
I'm going to bet this right now.
I will as well.
Not bad.
Yep, it's plus EV.
So that's a $10. That's a $154 payout. And this is the cool thing about that. Whereas, like, even if they don't give you the best odds on same game parlays, that's what's nice about FanDuel is you can just plug anything in and they'll actually give you, non-same game parlay odds outside of correlation and stuff. But what I'm saying is like that Okongwu under 9.5 rebounds is even money. But if you go in the same game parlay, Greg, it's minus 115, right? So that's just not even the same bet, but it still got us to a plus EV spot. I want to see if there's anything on FanDuel as well that we can build a parlay. I just bet that one $10 max, but you'll take it to win 154 all day.
Yeah. Just 1 second, because I'm going to plug it in too, so that.
Yep. I'm looking to see. I would have thought. I certainly would have thought here that we would have something for FanDuel, some type of promo with the return of NBA. They have a profit boost for Four Nations face-off. Okay. No sweat, same game parlay. Generally not a fan. Get a no sweat token to use on a 3+ leg same game parlay on either NBA on TNT games taking place tonight. So that's what? That's Sixers, Celtics. Sixers, Celtics.
Sun Spurs, I think, is the other one.
Sun Spurs. We can try it on FanDuel, see if there's anything out there.
We could. How many legs did you say it has to be?
3.
By the way, the combos market, there are so many options on DraftKings in the same game parlay. It is not easy to find the things I'm looking for.
Oh, it takes me. That's why I was hoping when I was doing it that you would just keep talking because it takes a long time. Anyway, these have to have final odds of plus 400 or longer. Same game parlay, toggle on the. Yeah, we know that. If your bet loses, you'll get a refund and bonus bets. Guys, as always, let me know what your maximum refund is on this. Let me know what your maximum refund is on this FanDuel. No sweat bet. Mine's $5. But some can be more. So let me know. We see this a lot with you guys, right? Where we've got like 5 and then some will be others. Did you see that? Hold on a second.
Yeah, $5 also has to be plus 400 odds or longer. I think you said that, though.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking up $5 for me as well.
Did we just get any Phoenix news?
Phoenix news? I don't think so.
Well, this Bradley Beal under 1.5 threes on FanDuel right now has an OS rating of 22.
Same, we've got, although I already bet Klingon earlier, but it's still a number that looks really good. But Klingon under 10.5 rebounds at plus 100 if you guys didn't bet Klingon rebounds already.
I also bet that, yeah. Let me get this Beal bet in here.
Yeah, Bradley Beal under 1.5 threes. That is plus 102.
Great thing about this too, guys, is you can just click bet You can just click bet.
By the way, we can include this as part of our parlay.
Yes, we can. I don't know, but if you wanted to, you could just click bet and it'll put that into your slip. Same with the mass entry tool. Click that, and as many bets as are up for a certain sports book will put them straight into your bet slip for you.
I've got it built out already.
Oh, sweet. All right.
Yeah, it was just 3 of the top bets were all from this game, so it was pretty easy.
You know what I'm going to do to actually make this easier on myself? I'm just going to go to the parlay builder on my phone, click those 3, and then just add them because you click bet now right there. It'll just put it right there for you. So let's make this happen. Only $5, but screw it.
All right. So we've got, for people who are listening.
What's the payout on $5 for this?
So we have Keldon Johnson under 10.5 points, -102. We've got Bradley Beal under 1.5 threes at also +102. Okay, Bradley Beal. Then we've got Chris Paul under 7.5 assists. At -120. So we've got +525 odds. And once again, it's a sweat-free bet. Worst that happens is it doesn't win and we get the money back anyway.
That's right. All right, I'm in. Yeah. Anything on Caesars or BetMGM. I like to make the rounds here because this is the fun stuff. I'm going to look to see if there's any opportunities there as well.
Caesars, not really.
Caesars is tough, man.
There'll be individual bets that show up on Caesars that project well. I found that it's very rare that there's a handful of bets that project well at the same time on Caesars, though.
Yeah, it's a problem. Does BetMGM have anything or just those stupid tokens?
I can't even use the tokens, which we talked about the other day, but it's weird. Like they show up and then you go to claim it, but then it just doesn't let me use them at all. And Smola, yeah, it's got to be a same game parlay. He said that he can't include Bradley Beal. Change it, make sure it's a same game parlay, and then you'll be able to get players from the same game.
NRM, what's the lowest EV percentage you try to bet? Above 1%, above 3%? Depends on the market for me.
And the book.
And the book for sure. I like to use the results tool because you can go back and see what's been profitable and what hasn't, right? Like there's certain markets where like shots on goal for hockey, I just have it at 1%, 2% for a lot of these. Other spots I'll have it higher or lower. It really all depends. I mean, for me, Greg, it's really just the strongest markets. I'm okay with having it lower. The softest books, I'm okay with having it lower, particularly when you've got a lot of volume on those books. So I don't know about you, but that's just the way I do it.
Yeah, pretty much the same for me. Actually, for hockey, for shots on goal, I even bet below 1% for some of them now. For some like the plus money shots on goal stuff. But yeah, look at the results tool and then also update your portfolios. You don't have to do it every day, but every couple of weeks, once a month or so, it's worth refreshing and making sure that nothing's changed.
Also, I think our results tool is free anyway for anybody that hasn't, like if they wanted to just use the results tool, I think you can access that regardless. Like if you wanted to just go in and see what markets for what books do the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
BetMGM. We could build one here though, because there's a lot of people and we'll build that pick 6 for you, Ryan. I know you asked that as well. We can see if we got some stuff on the pick'em side for sure.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I want to check before we build this out, I want to see if Pinnacle has updated. By the way, this line keeps dropping on Klingon. It's plus 102 now.
What? Go to the data on that for a second. What?
Yeah, it got all the way up to almost plus 110.
Interesting. What do you think that is?
Couldn't tell you. Just
Where's it at on the other books?
Yeah, if you look at the other books, way different. I mean, other than like Sugar House, Bet Rivers, Unibet, which I consider them to be fake books. It's almost impossible to use those books for more than like 2 days and not have your
they're
account
fake
get completely
books.
nuked. So I ignore that they exist at all. But yeah, compare it's minus 120 on DraftKings. It's minus 140 on BetMGM. It's minus 147 on Pinnacle. Yeah, FanDuel is just posting a line way different than everybody else. And these books just often kind of copy FanDuel.
I'm pretty sure I betted it like minus 113 earlier, and it's just moving against me. Where did I bet this?
I think I bet it minus 120. It was plus EV at the time. I wanted to check the Kawhi if Pinnacle's updated this line yet. What's your guess? Has Pinnacle updated from Norman Powell being downgraded to questionable an hour ago?
No.
Let's see. This goes to show how long some of these books... Yeah, they have not yet. This goes to show how long some of these books leave stale lines up for. Norman Powell, he hasn't been ruled out. He was just downgraded to questionable. But Norman Powell is one of the most important scorers on the Clippers. He was downgraded to questionable an hour ago, and Pinnacle has not updated their lines yet.
Which is crazy. But that might just be them saying, like, we're not going to move anything because he's questionable. Like,
no, they will. They just haven't done it yet. They will. I guess in the next 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. Don Deckler asked, why is everything unders? I usually explain this, Greg. Why don't you give it a go?
Yeah, sure. So,
and not everything is unders, by the way. You're just going to get a lot of them.
Yeah. If he's not familiar with the show and just looking at the board, it is true. Let's see if we have any overs on the board right now, just kind of out of curiosity. We do not at the moment. But yeah, pretty simply, the reason why is that unders don't have as much juice as overs. Books are skewing their lines towards the over side. So in our model, which is a market-based model, we're pulling different data from different sources that we've identified as sharp to create a fair line. That's the true odds right here. We use that to figure out what the EV is for each bet that's on the board. Considering that there's more juice on overs than unders, it's just a lot easier to find value on unders bets than there are on overs bets. It doesn't mean they don't exist, to what Lofty said. They do show up every once in a while. It's just so much easier to find value on unders. I remember talking to somebody a couple of years ago about this, where there was, I'm pretty sure it was 2 football seasons ago, there was 2 weeks of the NFL season where if you blindly bet every single under on FanDuel on every single market, you would have profited on 2 individual weeks just because of how much more heavily juiced overs are than unders.
That's amazing. Wait, if you had bet, say that again?
If you had bet the under on every single prop line that was available on FanDuel, so like every single quarterback blindly, under passing yards, under pass attempts, every single running back, under rushing yards, like all the wide receivers, under receiving yards, under receptions. There was 2 weeks, 2 years ago, where you could have bet the entire board on FanDuel, all of the unders for NFL player props, and you would have profited in 2 weeks just based on how much more the overs are juiced than the unders.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now, it's not always going to work like that, right? But we've seen that, like I said, we track all of the results here. So we know what has been profitable and what hasn't been. Again, it doesn't mean that overs aren't profitable spots. It just has to be the right spots. That's all. And we pull a lot more unders. That's what it comes down to. But yeah, a decent amount on the board for FanDuel right now. We'll still have to wait on that Pinnacle news for sure with the Norman Powell. That's a big deal. But aside from that, if you were to go back to Onyx for a second, go to Onyx.
Yeah, I was just
can we build an Onyx parlay?
We might be able to. The reason I went back is we were about to build a BetMGM parlay, and there was still some of the Clippers numbers at the top. So I just wanted to check to see if it was something that we would want to include at this point. But considering that Pinnacle still hasn't moved the line, I would want to forego some of those Clippers lines still. But if we were to really quickly put together a BetMGM parlay, and it could even be 2 legs, it doesn't have to be 3, but like Anthony Simons under 21.5 points with Ty Jerome under 11.5 points. That's plus 250 with a 6% expected EV. The majority of the bets that I place on BetMGM are either two-leg parlays or I do round robins. That's been a way that I've been able to keep my account pretty healthy over at BetMGM. So this is a pretty reasonable bet that I would be looking to make on my account, something like this.
Okay. Will you make the two-leggers there? You said you have no
Yeah.
problem with that? Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that gives me a little bit of hesitation, which it scared the shit out of me the other day, I sent you a message about this, is the day before the All-Star break, we had a ton of players get ruled out late. There was a bunch of guys on the injury report, and I had a ton of two-leg parlays over on BetMGM that very quickly became straight bets or just got outright voided because both guys weren't playing. And I was like, oh, this is what's going to kill me, because I have tried to avoid just straight bets over on BetMGM. And then I had a night where I had like half of my bets ended up being straight bets because of all the players that were ruled out. It didn't kill my account. I did notice, though, that when I tried to place some of the bets today, it said that some of the parlays I was placing, I had to lower the dollar amount, not to like death odds or anything like that, but it was the first time I've run into issues with it, which I think was because of that one slate the other day. So it's a little bit of a precarious situation with my BetMGM account. But that aside, in general, yeah, I'm good with the two-leg parlays.
Yeah, this stuff's good for account health too, and you just hope that you can fly under the radar. But I would assume that we've got a few decent spots for Onyx, and I know Aton's been doing a lot of parlays over on Onyx odds. Do we have any? Yeah, so there's the Jerome, there's the Simons, there's Sam Merrill, although we can't do that, both with Cleveland. Looks like a lot of Cleveland stuff there, and I'm really not interested in grabbing a same-game parlay. You do have Jokic. You have Dyson Daniels. We can build a parlay for Onyx.
Yeah, we could build the same parlays we did on DraftKings.
Yeah. It won't be, though. Some of that's moved.
Let's see, so there's Dyson Daniels, there's Jokic. We've got, I know points perform really well on DraftKings, so it stands threes and Onyx odds, but the same, like we don't have a big database of track bets from Onyx odds because it is such a new book. But I mean, we could just assume that points is going to perform really well there because it performs well on DraftKings.
Yeah. Yeah. In our limited tracking, I think right now it's 106% ROI.
Yeah, it's not bad.
No, it's funny though. I looked at it. We tried, it was like 12-1, which is hilarious. But another thing, guys, if you're clicking bet and you're adding these, make sure you look at the odds before you bet it. I know it's tempting to just like rush in and bet it before they the odds move. Onyx and DraftKings can be sneaky with that, where you'll flip over to the app, it'll load it into your bet slip, and then it actually already moved, but you don't see it physically move. You don't see it move on the screen. So it already moved. Whenever I do that, I don't know about you, but I keep the number in mind as I'm clicking bet now. So if it's like the plus 110 on Kawhi Leonard or the minus 120 on Ty Jerome, in my head, I'm going plus 110, minus 120. So I know going over there, if it says minus 130, I'm not going to get caught, because it's happened before. I try and get in, I get caught. The lines move before you even see it. So yeah, just for new users. Like I said, we got a promo going. There's going to be a lot of new people. We try and give you guys as many tips as we can. It's a lot, like just watching this show alone, I think should help you out a lot there. Understanding how injury news can affect this, understanding how these odds can shift when you're not looking. Promo code RETURN, by the way, RETURN, 50 or 75% off the entirety of the month. Link down there in the description or in chat, but or just in the description. But yeah, that's $75 off the month. So month is $25, well under $1 a day. Even if you're starting with a small bankroll, get on a lot of books, download the app, turn on notifications, and bet as much as you can. You're going to for sure see results. And you can see our results are right there on the screen, on the results tool. But yeah, Greg, there's a lot of tips and tricks, as Ben would say, to Portfolio EV that I think can just maximize your ROI.
Yeah, and a lot of it we go over the course of the show that we do here. but I'm sure there's a lot of people who've probably learned stuff that you and I haven't even figured out yet. So
Sure.
for sure, definitely. And if you guys are new, my DMs are open on Twitter. Lofty's DMs are open on Twitter. So if you have any questions, just hit us up. We're available.
Anytime. Yeah. And if you're just like, don't understand the process of this market-based betting, we're happy to help you figure that out as well. Man, get that Franz Wagner assist shit out of here, man. That's going to end so poorly. That's going to burn us. Is Derek White still up?
Let's
Bradley
see.
Beal?
I'll search for Derek White to see what that number is now.
By the way, Bradley Beal moved. We got it at plus 102. That's at minus 106 now, but it's still plus EV spot. So I'm okay with that all day.
Hey, it moved. We bet Derek White under 14.5 points at plus. Oh, no, never mind. It's still the same number. Still the same number. I thought it moved here for a second. It didn't. Same number.
Well, that means it's moving back and forth, actually, because that hits our system faster than the one up top does.
Oh, yeah, you can see it's yo-yoing.
Yep. So if you see it at like 108 or 100 down there and different up top from where, it means it's just going back and forth. My guess is that Derek White is actually going to settle into we're going to get positive CLV on that for sure.
I thought you were going to say he's going to settle into scoring 15 points tonight.
He is, yeah. Buzzer beater for sure. Anything else you want to look at before we go? Any other bets, any other spots? We got some good parlays in today, some really good ones.
Yeah, I was just looking at the top bets on the board to see if there's anything that's popped up over the last few minutes that you and I haven't hit on. We've got a good looking under here on D-Lo assist that I'm going to add to my thread right after we finish here. But other than that, looks like we've covered most of the top bets from the last hour.
Oh, Ryan, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm a forgetful asshole. Can you go to pick six?
Yeah, that is true. He's asked us multiple times, and he was the first person in chat.
I know. I'm sorry, man. Thanks for watching. It's not intentional, I promise. You've watched me long enough to know that things just slip the mind. You're probably going to have to go. I don't play on pick six. Click on NBA.
Yeah.
Only because I can't in Pennsylvania.
All right, so here we go. Here's the best available. He wanted a 6-legger, right?
I mean, I guess why not? He can water it down, as they say in the capper world.
Well, here we go. Here's the 6-legger that he asked for. The top 6 plays we have on the board for DraftKings Pick 6, and there's an over in here as well. Not all unders. We got one over. James Harden over 8.5 assists. TJ McConnell under 4.5 assists. We've got Buzelis for under 1.5 threes. We've got Aaron Gordon for under 3.5 assists. Desmond Bane for under 5.5 assists. And the aforementioned D'Angelo Russell under 5.5 assists. So there we have it, Ryan. Apologies, we made you sit here for an hour to read that off for 45 seconds.
Yeah. Last thing here. With James Harden, it is a Clippers player, but it's also an over.
True.
So just keep in mind, like if you were to bet an over in this spot, it's not nearly as catastrophic. Like if Norman Powell is in or out. Also, it's assists, right? So I don't think that's really heavily impacted by Norman Powell. The thing I'd hate to be doing is like the James Harden unders or Zubac's unders where usage is distributed elsewhere with Norman Powell out, Greg. But just to keep that in mind, I do think there are some spots where it comes to like overs specifically or like assists for a playmaker like Harden where it's not as big of a deal. But if you're betting unders on points and a leading scorer is questionable, that's a problem.
Absolutely. In general, though, I have, if something's projected as plus EV and there's a key player is questionable, I actually feel better about the bet.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Smaller, we'll answer that before we go. Those two bets at the top of the betting list have the OS value really high, 30 and 28. Why aren't they worth betting? Only because, well, the one is who did we bet already?
Yeah, so we bet on, if he means Klingon, we bet Klingon.
Yeah, we bet Klingon already. It's just better odds now than it was, which we were saying we don't really know why that is the case. It's a weird one. And then Franz Wagner's fine. Go back a little bit. You'll hear our assist discussion. The other one I think was like a Clippers player. And with the Norman Powell, if it's an under, be a bit.
If he's talking about earlier, then we were talking about Kawhi Leonard under 1.5 threes. And it was just because Sharp sources hadn't updated for Norman Powell being downgraded to questionable yet.
Show him again how you can check the Sharp source. Like Pinnacle is one of the sharper sources, but they're also one of the slow movers, which can be a problem. We do have a fix for
something
this
like
in the works
Kawhi threes, which we were looking at before. You go to graphs, and then you'd select Pinnacle, and you could see that, they haven't updated lines yet for Norman Powell being downgraded to questionable, which took place a while ago now.
Yeah.
Before the show started.
So when books move quicker, even if they're not a sharp book, it can make it appear. Go to odds there, Greg, next to graph. Like look at the odds for all of the books. A lot of times, now this one's actually unique because a lot of times what you'll see is if a sharp source doesn't move, you'll see that like all of the books are showing plus EV. And that to me is one of the red flags. Go to Zubot, see if it's the same with Zubot.
Here's
top.
Yep,
there's a good example. No, that was perfect. Actually, look, see how almost every single book is green. To me, that's a red flag when you're dealing with injury news.
And I'll bet it's the same thing that Pinnacle.
I'll guarantee it.
Yeah, they haven't moved because the only line move they have here is from like 9:45 a.m. Eastern time, and yeah, they haven't really moved for Norman Powell being downgraded to questionable.
Yeah, they actually moved it to shorter odds since we've last looked.
Which also doesn't make sense.
No. But no, it's pretty much the same. Anyway, appreciate you guys. You ever have questions, hit us up. Like I said, results is the promo. Use it at checkout, 75% off the first month. You'll love the tool, man. And hey, in a world where you have a lot of people that are, I tweeted this yesterday, Greg, like using last 10 data to originate 30 unit plays and then only boast about it when they hit a massive parlay, but refuse to show you the results. All of our results are always up here. So you guys can know like that these are profitable tools before you even start. I hate the scammy shit. It drives me nuts. So I think it's important to distinguish that, Greg, when the whole social media betting space is becoming a cesspool of, there's some good people out there. Like there's some really good people out there. I talk about DK DFS, our boy Lindy in chat, like a lot of really good a lot of great ones out there. But the loudest people tend to get the most attention and rope people in. So
yeah, or just the dumbest people.
Yeah, but the thing is nowadays, and I said this, I almost envy their blatant sociopathy and lack of a soul. The thing nowadays is you don't actually have to be a good bettor. You have to be good on social media and you have to be good at marketing. And if you can do that, you make a shit ton of money.
There's some people who are neither of those things though, and they just land like, because I was looking at, I don't know if you saw, there was that documentary, I forget, like Life of a Cap or whatever. I watched a few minutes of this. I'm like, this guy isn't any of these things. He's not a good bettor. He's not a good marketer. He just right place, right time, and built a following.
I think he was driving while smoking a blunt on the way to a Lakers game or Clippers game while looking at like last 20 data.
Last 5 games.
And building out a prize picks card. And then midway through the game, just cliff notes here, had mentioned that he believes the league knew that they were on that slip, which is why none of the overs hit.
So he said he regretted not playing the opposite of his research. and then he also said, but I don't really care about the subs, was also part of what he had said. Yeah.
That was right. Anyway, appreciate you guys. We'll see you back here for the next one. Follow Greg G. Ehrenberg DFS, me at Laffy_D. Both of us are always trying to put out some great stuff over there and help you guys win more, as we are trying to do for ourselves as well. I'll be live on X at 3:00. So come hang out, turn on notifications, 3 Eastern. Going to have a lot going on there. Going to look over our bets, going to look over results, going to look over some parlays, and a lot of new bets coming up within the hour. So come hang out. Otherwise, we'll see you back here tomorrow to close out the week right here on the EV Strategy Show. Peace.